Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I think today everything of this is correct. We see that we already have the first attendees, so we will wait for 1-2 minutes for everybody to join. It's a huge pleasure to see so many different countries, even continents, participating all together for one interesting topic, focusing on Russia. Even at this difficult times, Russia has still a lot of opportunities, a lot of potentials. Maybe it's getting more tricky to start and to operate with the business in Russia, especially due to the barriers of entering Russia. But today I hope that we will get some answers also from our colleagues, how to manage, how to cope with such barriers, and to focus on growing the business, to focus on future strategic perspectives. So we see that already people are coming. I maybe shortly introduce also our audience. Well, not only the audience, especially the people you are seeing in the upper line presenting today. We have a very broad speakers from the east until the west. We will start with the CERBA, the Canadian Eurasia Russia Business Association, who is inviting today for the very interesting event, explaining especially why Canadian companies are successfully in Russia, and their team in Moscow is doing a great job to support and assist Canadian companies starting and operating business here. Mr. Alexei Rudnev from Rosnedra, the Federal Agency for Subsoil Use, will continue about the outview and the opportunities in Russia. Then we are very glad to have a lot of speakers from practice who can share their practical experiences. Mr. Stanislav Vorodyuk from Kinross Gold will explain how the Canadian perspective in Russia looks like. Mr. Wachowski from Hedge will explain how he sees the market. We have also Calliope Lanlouis from the Australian company Deswik presenting the practical experience, and Mr. Jan Petzold from GHH Group explaining from his German standpoint how business is in Russia. Myself, Christopher, will explain a little bit about the market entry, how this is now possible, what are the basics maybe to know about. But I think it is time that we start with our presentations, and I'm very glad to hand over the floor, well, or the screen, to Mr. Nathan Hunt from CERBA, the Canadian Eurasia Association for Businesses here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christopher, for that introduction. I'm grateful to be here today. CERBA is happy to sponsor this very important event. The mining sector is nearest and dearest to the Canadian business community in Russia. Although we talk all the time about diversification, about the need to open cooperation in other sectors, it's all about natural resources in Canada, and mining is the #1 sector for our business association. Canada is the largest investor as a country in the Russian mining industry. There's no country that's invested more in the Russian mining industry. Most of that due to the Kinross Gold Corporation, whose representative Stanislav Vorodyuk is on the call and will be speaking later. So we're pleased that Canada and Russia have found a way to cooperate when so many other nations with larger resources and perhaps deeper pockets have not. So we're happy that Canada and Russia are on the right track in any case. I have a short presentation. I think that my presentation is not the main focus of today's event, so I'm going to rush through it. I'm actually very interested in hearing what our colleague Alexei Rudnev will talk about, will explain to us about the regulatory framework, because that's always changing, and I have to say it's changing for the better. We have been extremely pleased with the cooperation that we've gotten from Mr. Rudnev and from Rosnedra as an organization. We have made suggestions and they have listened, unlike some other bureaucratic organizations in the government that will go unnamed, but Rosnedra has proven themselves to be an extremely odzivchui. How do we say that in English? They pay attention to what's being said, and they listen to recommendations and they act on them. And we've been very pleased with the relationship that we've been able to forge with Rosnedra, and also with the help of Kinross Gold Corporation, of course, who has led all the activities in that area. So I will share my screen. Quickly share screen. Okay, can you see my screen now? That's that is the first slide. That's simply our board of directors. Move this up. Okay, and next slide, that's me. About CERBA, the association was founded in 2004. We are a two-way business association. We support Canadian trade and investment in Russia, but we also support Russian export to Canada and Russian investment in Canada. We have 9 chapters across Eurasia, most of them in Canada, but also Moscow, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan, Tashkent. We have a membership of over 200 corporations and individuals, which are very active, and that's been our strength, actually. Even during times of trouble, our membership base has remained strong and active. The services we provide are shown. I won't bother to read them. And then the last third of this slide talks about the Russia-Canada Business Council, which is a joint venture we established with the RSPP. And many of you know RSPP is the largest Russian business association. It's been called the Oligarchs Club, tongue-in-cheek, but in fact, together with that association, we established a joint venture that we call the Russia-Canada Business Council. That has been a way for us to engage directly with Russian companies that might not otherwise be members of CERBA, because perhaps they don't have interest in Canada, but they might be interested in that. So Russia-Canada Business Council has been an excellent vehicle for us to access large Russian multinationals and put on events together with their cooperation. Similarities between Canada and Russia have been talked about many times. We are both the largest countries in the world, Russia #1, Canada #2. The economies of both countries are largely dependent on natural resources. We obviously are specialists in extracting those natural resources, whether you're talking about oil, gas, heavy oil, minerals of all types, including gold, palladium, copper, uranium, all those, anything connected with mining is going to be important to the economies of both Russia and Canada. The climatic conditions are obviously similar. Both countries have large empty spaces in the north, have climatic challenges that make it difficult to get resources out of the ground, that require innovative solutions in order to even put people in the very remote locations where some of these deposits are placed. We have similar challenges, sociological challenges, environmental challenges, connections with Aboriginal communities, social responsibility. We have similar solutions for corporate social responsibility, which were discussed at a conference, joint conference with RSPP a year ago in June 2019. And then the last bullet point says we are both Arctic states. Both Canada and Russia obviously are heavily invested in the Arctic. And interestingly, in spite of the attempts to play up a conflict between Canada and Russia, our approach to the allocation of natural resources in the Arctic is very similar. So we have more in common in both our policy and our territory than perhaps some commentators would admit. The strengths of Canada's mining sector are obvious. We have abundant resources. We focus on sustainable development. I would say 30 years ago that didn't exist. Now the so-called Canada brand is recognized around the world. It is a symbol that embodies Canadian commitment to responsible mining, to mining that does not harm the planet, that does not leave lasting scars on the landscape, that does not harm stakeholders, including workers, community residents, and Indigenous peoples. We do our best Canada is all about compliance with both world international regulations as well as Canadian local laws, but also sound principles of environmental protection and social responsibility. The third bullet point talks about our sophisticated financial institutions. I can tell you that in mining, there is no better place to access the capital of the world markets than the TSX, the Toronto Stock Exchange. The TSX Venture, which used to be out of Vancouver, is also an excellent place for less developed companies, for companies that are just junior miners, just starting out, to access world capital resources. We have broad expertise in geoscience. That's something that I'll show in the next slide. And here we have, you can see we have an extensive science and technology network, including development of the so-called Green Mining Initiative, which I can discuss another day, but it's simply another example of how Canada is taking its environmental responsibilities seriously. So there you have the bullet points. You see all those checkpoints. I won't bother to read that entire list. You can read them. Those are the areas where Canada and Russia can and should be cooperating in the mining sector. We have a robust contingent of Canadian companies that are ready and eager to work with Russian companies in supporting mining and actually conducting mining in and of itself, and providing equipment, and providing technology, and providing consulting, environmental monitoring, health and safety. All of the various points that you see in these check marks are areas where Canada has specific expertise that should and could be interesting to Russia. So then at the very bottom, you see a list of a number of our members who are active in the mining sector. I won't bother to read them, but suffice it to say, it is certainly the most important sector, I would say, A, to our business association, and B, to Canada-Russia cooperation as a whole. So we're grateful for the support of our many sponsors. Kinross Gold Corporation is prime among them, but we also have Hatch, we also have Bombardier Recreational Products, Wood, and yeah, Bombardier. I already stated Bombardier. So in any case, we're very pleased to be on this webinar today, and I will turn the floor back to you, Christopher. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Nathan. What I forgot at the very beginning, that we also have the possibility to ask questions. We have the chat box. So in case anybody is interested to receive additional information, to ask any questions, you are very pleased to simply write the question in the chat box so that the people can directly answer them during the presentation. In case you would like to answer the questions afterwards or after the presentations, you feel free to do so. We also send in the invitations with the presentations to you after the webinar. So I think we directly proceed with the next presentation, not to invest too much time, with Alexei Rudnev from Rosneft. We will be very glad to also see your input, how you see the opportunities in Russia in the next year and in general.
Hello, everyone. Please meet the head of the Department
Коллеги,
of Geology.
Я буду докладывать на русском, но я так понимаю, эта проблема перевода здесь решена. Вот. Рад, что мы собрались хотя бы в таком формате, невзирая на текущее состояние дел по коронавирусной инфекции. Надеюсь, никого из участвующих, из близких это не затронула проблема. Вот. И мое сообщение, оно носит такой общий характер.
Please welcome Alexei Rudnev. He is the head of
Хорошо,
Department
тогда
of Geology,
давайте с презентации начнем.
Minerals
Я
of
скажу
Federal
пару
Agency
слов,
for Subsoil
а потом
Use.
перейдем к обсуждению.
Okay. Alexei?
Второй слайд можно сразу, пожалуйста? Ну, смотрите, чтобы понимать, с чем мы имеем дело, я хотел осветить параметры нашей сырьевой базы огромной нашей страны.
Alexei has just said that we've got a vast base, right, just of and the interest of Russian users is just growing every year. Okay, Alexei, proceed. Продолжайте, пожалуйста. Here is the chart of the base, right, which Alexei has just presented.
Хорошо, перейдем тогда дальше. Наша страна занимает значимые позиции как по запасам, так и по уровню добычи различных видов минерального сырья. И на слайде представлена та группа, где мы как минимум входим в десятку, либо по первой позиции, либо по второй.
Yeah, Russia occupies significant place in terms of extraction and supplies of mineral materials. And here is the chart where you can see those positions where Russia is among 10 top, right, just of extraction. Alexei?
По наиболее значимым направлениям это, естественно, у нас алмазы, платина, золото. По алмазам мы вообще занимаем первое место в мире и по объему запасов, и по добыче. При этом это практически половина мировых запасов и примерно треть мировой добычи.
As for extraction of diamonds, Russia occupies the first place, and the most significant things are extraction of diamonds, gold, and platinum, where Russia occupies leading positions. Alexei?
Стоит также отметить значимое положение в части золота и золотодобычи. Мы также здесь первый в мире по уровню запасов, пока что третий по уровню добычи, но темпы здесь у нас достаточно уверенно растут из года в год.
As for the gold, here we occupy the first place of supplies and the third place of extraction, but the amount of extraction is growing, is constantly growing. Alexei?
И как мы видим вот на правой части слайда, у нас практически всегда обеспечивается простое воспроизводство выбывающих запасов золота. Вот. И сейчас, на сегодняшний день этого года, у нас уже получен прирост около 720 тонн золота.
In the right part of the diagram, you can see the dynamics of gold production and reserves, just how they grow in Russian. And Alexei has just said that currently we've got 720 tons grow in gold extraction. Alexei?
Тем самым, я думаю, что мы в самой ближайшей перспективе как минимум займем там второе место, а может быть даже и будем стараться выходить на первое место по уровню добычи золота, ну, обеспечивая задел для такого уровня.
Alexei promises that recently they hope to occupy the second and even the first place in part of gold extraction. He hopes so. Alexei?
Следующий слайд, можно? Вся эта деятельность по недропользованию у нас активно развивается, в том числе с участием и иностранных компаний.
All this activity, including using of subsoil, is actively developing, including the participation of foreign companies. Alexei?
Здесь на слайде вы можете видеть динамику увеличения количества лицензий и количество заявок на лицензирование в России, которое существенно с 2014 года у нас увеличилось.
Here in the right part, you can see the dynamics of applying for licenses, which is constantly growing. And there are more and more claims for the licenses, which is developing successfully. Alexei?
В первую очередь это связано с введением так называемого заявительного принципа, основу которого, кстати, мы взяли из канадской системы.
First of all, the basis of it is just claims taking principle. This basis they took from Canadian system. Alexei?
Мы его последовательно развиваем и в том году расширили его действие на любые объекты, не содержащие запасов полезных ископаемых на Дальнем Востоке и в арктической зоне Российской Федерации.
This claim-taking principle is constantly developing, and Alexei said that this. Алексей, одну секунду, еще раз повторите последнее предложение, пожалуйста.
Говорил о том, что мы расширили заявительный принцип на участки недр, не содержащие запасов на Дальнем Востоке и в арктической зоне Российской Федерации.
Yeah, this principle with predict resources of high categories is developed in the territories of Russian Arctic, Far Eastern Federal District and Irkutsk region.
Алексей.
Тем самым мы практически вдвое, даже больше увеличили количество лицензий на геологическое изучение. Но и в целом всех видов лицензий у нас общее количество растет, а с учетом количества заявок, которые мы также видим на графиках, мы предполагаем, что такая динамика по увеличению будет сохраняться.
Thus, the amount of licensing is growing. It has doubled and it's constantly growing, as you can see from the diagram. It's connected with different licenses.
Алексей.
Следующий слайд, можно? В целом здесь приведены отдельные позиции, которые улучшают систему лицензирования, систему недропользования, но они далеко не окончательные.
Here you can see the improvements in the Russian legislation, which significantly help to improve the system. But as Alexey has just mentioned, they are not final and they are in process of development.
Алексей.
У нас также есть и наработки по дополнительным инициативам по изменению законодательства в сфере недропользования, которые уже вместе с принятыми решениями позволят улучшить, так скажем, климат в недропользовании в нашей стране.
Currently, there are additional initiatives for the development of the climate in the sphere where Alexey is working, and he hopes for significant improvements.
Алексей.
Ну, отдельные позиции, как я уже сказал, привел на слайде, это увеличение срока геологического изучения, это расширение заявительного принципа, о котором говорил, и снятие различного рода ограничения по доступу к информации о минеральном сырье.
As Alexey has just said, those points are connected with enlargement of so-called claims-taking principle, increasing of time of geological explorations. So this is mainly connected, and improvement of the climate in general.
Алексей.
А можно вернуться к предыдущему слайду? Честно сказать, исходя из вот, отображенной динамики по развитию лицензирования, из количества площадей, у нас большинство перспективных объектов в России уже заняты, так скажем.
I don't know how to say, fortunately or unfortunately, the most perspective objects from the point of view of their presence have already been occupied. The most territories.
Алексей.
Поэтому, если есть желание поучаствовать в целом в недропользовании в России, то надо спешить в нем участвовать, в том числе и вносить свою лепту в эти графики.
If you have a wish to participate in subsoil use in Russia, you should hurry up to occupy some positions and to prepare your schedules for that.
Алексей.
Вот, но у нас все же определенные интересные объекты, которые еще в нераспределенном фонде недр находятся, они остались.
But there are still some objects which are still to the disposal of potential users. So, well, you should hurry up to use them.
Алексей.
Мы в ближайшее время готовимся к проведению конкурсу по золотородному месторождению Кючус в Якутии, на котором у нас числится более 170 тонн запасов золота.
recently there will be a tender in one oil extraction place, which is called, Alexei, could you please, название скажите, пожалуйста?
Алексей, могли бы повторить, пожалуйста,
Название,
название?
просто название месторождения.
Ючус.
Kuchus, okay. So, well, this place potentially has got 170 tons of gold.
Алексей?
Поэтому всех реально заинтересованных игроков милости просим. Все будет опубликовано в открытой системе и известно заранее.
If there are
Можно
any
поучаствовать.
If there are any potential players, you're welcome and you can participate in this tender. Everything will be published openly and you're welcome to participate.
Алексей?
У меня в целом все. Я готов буду ответить на вопросы, если таковые
Alexei is ready to
имеются.
answer.
Спасибо.
In case you've got questions, Alexei is ready to answer them. Any questions?
Yes, there's a question shown in the Q&A. I don't know if Chris is going to bring it up, but I'll bring it up in case he doesn't. It says, я на русском, Алексей, я на русском буду задавать. I'll speak Russian because those who don't speak Russian, you can read the question in the Q&A portion. Там указано, Алексей, что динамика подачи на лицензии показывает большой спад в 2020 году. Это связано с ковидом или просто с какими-то другими факторами, о которых вы не говорили?
Это, во-первых, цифра по факту на сентябрь месяц, то есть не на конец года. И на конец года мы существенного спада не ожидаем, но сильного, может быть, увеличения в дальнейший период не будет, потому что на самом деле все участки уже подобрали. То есть, ну, у нас их конечное количество, в конце концов.
Понятно. Julia, can you translate?
Yes, I can translate that, of course. Alexei has just said that he doesn't see significant, actually, this decrease is not due to COVID, but he says that the amount of plots is limited, right? And all significant plots have already been picked up. So, well, once again, you should hurry up, right?
Алексей?
He also noted that the number is low because it's only as of September, and that by the end of the year there will be it will be a higher number, perhaps.
Okay, thank you.
We can hear.
Okay, well, let's hope that it's now working again. So I would directly give over the floor to Stanislav Borodyuk from Kinross Gold, and I, in the meanwhile, check what is with my microphone.
Okay, Christopher, Nathan, thank you very much for your kind introductory remarks about Kinross Gold. Do you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, we hear you very well, Stanislav.
Excellent, excellent. So good morning and good afternoon to everyone. It is a pleasure for me to take part in this virtual conference and to provide you with a snapshot of Kinross' current operations at the Far East of Russia, and to share with you my understanding of the investment climate for exploration and mining in the region where we operate. As some of you may already know, this year Kinross Gold celebrates its 25th anniversary in Russia. And during the quarter century of Kinross operations at the Far East of Russia, we safely and successfully built and operated 4 world-class mines, investing more than $3.5 billion and strengthening our status as the largest Canadian investor to Russia. This year, Kinross anniversary was also marked by new and significant investments in Russia. I'm pleased to say that in January 2020, we acquired a new, highly prospective exploration project located in the Khabarovsk region. Initial capital expenditure estimates for the project are $500 million, with the launch of the production scheduled for 2025. The project is expected to provide more than 400 jobs, significant tax revenues, and opportunities for small and medium Russian suppliers, enterprises. We're also continuing to expand our presence and investments in Chukotka. Just some weeks ago, we acquired a new exploration license encompassing more than 1,000 square kilometers and located closely to our current operations, Kupol and Dvoynoye mines in Chukotka. We also continue with extensive exploration in Chukotka to extend mine life at our Kupol mine. That is our key asset in Russia at the current stage. And first half of 2020 produced some of the best exploration results on record that allows extending mine life at Kupol to at least 2025. And we expect to bridge production at Kupol to Chulbatkan startup and provide continuous. Chulbatkan is the mine in Khabarovsk Krai that I mentioned before, and to provide continuous operation in Russia. So overall, Kinross operations in Russia continue to demonstrate a culture of high performance, despite the challenges imposed on all of us by COVID-19. And that is possible due to comprehensive preventive measures introduced across all the company sites in the region. And also amid challenges related to COVID-19, Kinross has also reaffirmed its status as a strategic social partner in the regions where we operate. Our company has allocated about $2 million to regional healthcare institutions to help in their fight against COVID-19 at the far east of Russia. Currently, we have been delivering medical equipment to Chukotka, Magadan, and Khabarovsk regions. I should say that we have been quite fortunate to successfully and responsibly operate in Russia for 25 years. And looking ahead, we believe that there are more opportunities for successful foreign investment in exploration and mining, which in turn can drive future economic and social development in the far east of Russia. Speaking of investment climate, the Russian subsoil regulators, the Ministry of Natural Resources, Rosnedra, the Federal Subsoil Agency, supported by the Ministry of Forest Development, the Ministry of Economic Development, all of them together have taken quite significant steps over the past decade to improve subsoil regulation in Russia. And that has become almost a kind of my mantra, but I truly believe that if we take subsoil regulation and investment climate for mining in Russia 10, 15 years ago, and compare that to what we witness today, it would be quite safe to say that the regulation has become more transparent and predictable. As you have already heard from Alexey, the subsoil regulators have introduced auctions for mining licenses with quite clear criteria. Claims taking procedure for early stage exploration licenses, as mentioned by Alexey early in his presentation. The authorities have simplified licensing agreements for subsoil users by introducing one single template for all licensing agreements. And this list can be continued further. So overall, I personally think that it has become more comfortable for companies, including foreign companies, to do business in the Russian mining sector. And that is one of the reasons why we keep investing in Russian subsoil. Of course, there are still directions for further improvement, and I expect that the Russian regulators will continue fine-tuning the subsoil legislation. For instance, currently, as far as I know, the Ministry of Natural Resources has created a task force to develop a procedure that would allow dividing, separating, and combining subsoil plots at a request of subsoil user, the owner of relevant subsoil licenses. And we believe that this initiative would provide greater flexibility to subsoil users, leading to greater exploration and production efficiency on the part of the subsoil users. So we're looking forward to such amendments in the subsoil regulation. Thank you.
Chris, are you there?
Yes,
Yeah, let's go on to the.
yes. So we directly proceed also with Robert Machowski, and we have already the screen about the Canadian success story. Sounds perfect.
Yes. Good morning. Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me? How's the sound?
We can hear you quite well.
We can hear you very well, Robert.
That's perfect. Thank you very much to SERBA and also the organizers for giving us the opportunity to speak at this event. So I'm pleased to share with you in the next couple of slides some of the successes as an initially Canadian company, Hatch Engineering, has achieved by being present in this region, in Russia and the CIS countries. We call this talk Creating Positive Change Together. So we need to first realize that the world is changing at an unprecedented pace. And the problems today are much tougher and complex as we move on in time. And it's really the realization that the partners that the mining companies or infrastructure companies and users need to find a innovative and a flexible way to bring this change and to cope with this change. A year ago, who would have thought that COVID would have done what it has done to us? And there are many other examples. Who's Hatch? Hatch Engineering is a company, and we deliver engineering, project and construction management services for the process engineering or mining, business consulting, digital and investments to, as stated, mining, metallurgical, energy and infrastructure in industries globally. I'll tell you shortly about the origins of Hatch. Some of you may know them. They're obviously from Canada. So our vision is that we are passionately committed to the pursuit of a better world through positive change. This is something which is part of daily life, both in Russia as it is in Canada. We know this well. Who's Hatch? Hatch is a company that started its humble beginnings in the 1960s. Started by our great founder, Jerry Hatch, in the civil construction and tunneling business, actually, and then moved on into projects in metals. So we've got 6 decades of history and growth. Globally, we've got roughly 9,000 employees, permanent employees, who are not all of them, but the company is not owned by a single person, as it often happens in Russia. The company is owned, employee owned. In other words, the company has shares that issues to the associates or the partners. Globally, we've got a project pipeline continuously. The number is indicated there, but that varies. But it's a large sum of money in terms of project all across the world. Out of the 159 countries, we've got track record in 150 of them. So again, the talk, the introduction that Nathan made initially around the similarities, I personally find so many similarities between the two countries, and at the moment it's absolutely clear that this is an advantage and the place for growth for Canadian companies, should they only accept to understand how the operating climate works here. Just in short, we've got, this is just a slide showing a couple of the super regions that we've divided our operations into. We've got these major 4 areas, and Russia falls into the Africa, Europe, and Middle East region, and it's by far the biggest. But the point of the slide is to show you that we've got presence globally, and we work using using IT technology, as well as having expertise dispersed throughout the world, and we make use of various subject matter experts. No matter where they are, they will be involved in a project here. In Russia, our beginnings in Russia specifically go back to the early 90s, and the actual operation in earnest really in the early 2000s. So we're approaching the 20th, the second decade of operation here in Russia. We're based in St. Petersburg, where our project office is, and in Moscow. Since those beginnings that I mentioned, we've registered over 270 projects. It may not seem like much, but these are contracts which we've had within this region alone. Obviously, these are not the contracts that Hatch company globally brings in. We have done engineering and design studies, front-end loading from FEL 1, 2, and 3. We also fulfill and do projects according to the Russian standards, Russian design code. Here we have 37 fully qualified, experienced engineers in our St. Petersburg office, and about another 20 odd support staff. And of course, the entire company behind us to provide the services. What I really want to come to was the next section of the slide of the presentation, which is really sharing the success story with you. And the success story is really coming around what we call our manifesto. It essentially is a set of statements that all our employees know. We've had common development of this from everyone in the company, and it's our driving motto. And it's kind of transcends borders, transcends language barriers. We have this in Russian, in Chinese, French, all languages. So that's part of our success. We have this internal Hatch motto and manifesto that drives us. And that gives us really the guidelines on how to solve certain issues in countries, in new countries and existing countries. Another point here is that the success stories, obviously, there's not enough time to go into any project details, but we have a number of services where we are flexibly changing. So change and positive change is part of this. And some of the bullets here explain the services which we also have introduced and are now working together with our clients, making them successful. These services are available, and some of them are already on well-established track record with our Russian clients here. So I will attempt, if the technology allows, to share with you a short clip, 1-minute clip of the delivery of the world's biggest autoclave, Hatch designed and supplied as well, a piece of equipment which was designed by our specialist team in Mississauga in Canada, and then with great effort constructed in Europe and then shipped via Khabarovsk on a ship, barge, etc., to a client, a very significant gold processing client in that region. And this client has affectionately named this autoclave Nikolai, after the great scientist and one of the employees that worked at the processing facility. So I will now show you this short video.
Ну да, я пока слушаю.
So this is what a 50-meter long and 6-meter diameter success looks like after about 2 years of work. So in essence, the success story here is for us as a Canadian started company, is a private ownership coming into the Russian market and being flexible. We have engineering as our core service. We have specific research and technology expertise, and we pride ourselves on providing unique, differentiated products and services. And then putting it all together for the client, and then making sure that the solutions that we've come up with are in line with the overall vision of the company. Okay, thank you very much. I'll answer any questions if there are any.
That was a big cooker.
Yes, thank you very much. We also have one question to Robert. So for the engineering works for your Russian clients, do you have in-house personnel in Canada, Russia, or you use local RDIs? Is there a preference from your clients in this regard?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. So firstly, the way we operate is that we have a team here in Russia, a bilingual team of qualified engineers who interface with the clients, and we are fully licensed to deliver projects under Russian design. We then pull in specialists from globally. So we are not a transition or a representative office. We're an engineering team. We are ourselves an RDI. And from a capacity point of view, if we require additional support, we then can partner with usually the client's RDI. But we have delivered projects for our clients under Russian rules, Russian standards, with input from our foreign colleagues. So it's a proper integrated service. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have another question. Does the head office in St. Petersburg cooperate with the Natural Resources University, previously the Gorny Institute, in particular through Rector Vladimir Livchenko?
So when you say cooperate, we have obviously supported, and we know the institute well, but we do not at the moment have any official alliances. But we would be very glad to obviously update it. Maybe if the author of this question would contact me, then I'll be very glad to see how we can support this more actively.
Yes, I think we can share also the contact details afterwards. We also had a question from Anton to Stanislav concerning also the contact details. We will provide them then all after the webinar with the follow-up directly. Good. Is there no open questions? There's one question from Natalia. Maybe it's you can directly answer this as well. It is about the travel restrictions. Are they a present big problem for the operations?
Yeah. So from the Hatch point of view, it's quite an interesting situation. And again, I come back to the being flexible and being also responsive to the changes. Many of our clients have had contracts with us signed, and obviously our specialists were due to fly into sites. We provide this service, we continue to provide the service using our team in St. Petersburg. Obviously, it's much easier to get within Russia to Russian sites. It has been a hindrance, but our services carry on as we provide our team that comes to site and gets the necessary data for our specialists to utilize. But it definitely has impacted on the operations.
Okay, perfectly. Thank you for your answer. Let us continue with Calliope and how to see how software providers are seeing the present market and the future perspectives. Calliope.
Hello, Christopher. Thank you so much for the invitation to speak today, and thank you so much for the interesting presentations we've had so far. I'd like to share the journey that Desvik has experienced entering the Russian market and our ongoing efforts to work in Russia. I'd like to think of us as a success story, but I think we're still very early on our journey, and there's always more work to do. As a way of introduction about Desvik, Desvik is a software company. We're headquartered in Brisbane, Australia. I'm currently in London. In case anyone's wondering, we have a very dynamic working environment these days, as people have mentioned. We started in Brisbane around 12 years ago. We have grown to have a very significant amount of share in the mine planning software space in Australia and North America over a number of years. We now have offices in Australia, as I've mentioned, North America, South Africa, Europe, here in London, and Moscow as well. We started a company in Russia in 2014, which may sound like a long time ago, but for many years we were still very new to the Russian market and to the clients there in Russia. We weren't very well known there like we were in Australia and North America and other places. So we've had to put a significant amount of effort into spreading the word of our software in Russia. And all over the globe, but we sort of have had to put a lot more focused effort by sort of attending a lot of trade shows, working with Austrade and other similar companies, which we didn't necessarily have to do to so much of an extent in Australia and North America because of that word of mouth. But we were the new company in Russia, and there is quite a lot of competition. And being very honest and open here about the environment that we work in, there is a lot of competition from other mine planning softwares, but our product is quite unique in that it's quite integrated and dynamic, and we're able to adjust quickly, and we do pride ourselves on a high level of support. So something that's been very important to our success and work in Russia is actually hiring Russian-speaking engineers who are proficient in the use of our software, and that is something that we continue to focus on. Also, having people in the right time zones, located in the right place, has really helped us in our journey, and trying to understand the market that we're working in has also been a significant part of what we've done. So while I said we started the company in 2014, I feel it's really only been the last 2 or 3 years that we've had a bigger push into the country, and hopefully many of the mining companies that have joined us today have heard of us, and I know we're working with several of the companies on this call. For us, I did mention we're much smaller than the likes of Hatch, which is a company that I also worked for many years, but we're around 350 people globally now. So we're a much smaller company. So understanding the processes and the way the business operates in Russia was a significant undertaking for a small company like us, and it's through the services of companies like Schneider and other similar providers that we're well on the way of that journey now. But I think we, as a company, have learned quite a lot. Operating in Australia and the UK and other countries is not the same, and so we've really had to make an effort to make sure that we understand the local landscape, and I think that we're getting there now, and I do appreciate that the efforts of providers like Schneider who've helped us on that journey. So as I sort of mentioned, it was difficult to break into the market initially, and it was mostly because of the amount of time and effort that we had been able to put in. But our focus, I feel, is really now starting to pay dividends for us and for our clients. And we put a lot of effort, as I mentioned, into getting the right technical skills, but also into the localization of the software. And that's efforts that we're continuing with, and I don't see that ever stopping as our software develops. It's something that we need to continue focusing on, and that's not just providing the software in a particular language. That that is making sure that it is actually fit for purpose for the local way of doing things, the local design methodologies, etc. So having those technical skills on our team and having them input into our software has really made a great difference, and I think that's something that we will always need to focus on and continue to do into the future. So we've seen that the last couple of years has really been a bit of a shift for us, in that we've now a known entity. We have a lot of clients in Russia actually approaching us, and so it's very pleasing from our point of view that a lot of our efforts are now coming to fruition, but also that the software is now known to a greater extent in Russia. It brings a lot of benefits to mining operations and also mine planning consulting companies, but our main focus is on the operations, and so there's a lot of benefits the software can bring, and we're very pleased now to appreciate that a lot of Russian mining companies and companies from abroad that are operating in Russia are starting to understand the benefits of that and really engaging with us. So I just wanted to sort of share part of the journey. I won't go into too much detail because I know there's a few more speakers coming up. But if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And if there's anybody looking to try to break into Russia, I'm happy to share the honest truth with you about the ups and downs of that. So I would encourage any questions.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. So in case questions come up, just put them in the chat box or the question and answer. What I understood also from the presentation that it's the outlook for the next year is positive. I think it's with all companies, and maybe then also the next companies can speak about the experience that in Russia takes often a little bit more time to make a sale out of a contract than in other countries. But usually then if companies are persistent and if they are present, it is helping in the long term. There is a question concerning your software. Can you please tell us about the types of software your company is specialized in?
Sure. So we have a few areas of focus, but the main one being mine planning. So that includes the design and scheduling of the mine, and it's an integrated platform where the 3D graphics actually feeds directly into a schedule, so you can see a live animation as you update the mine plans. So that's our main area of focus. We've also got modules in the drill and blast space, survey space. We've also developed tools in the enterprise space that include sort of data management flow programs. We call that MDM. It's a check-in and check-out system and approvals process. What we find when we go to different mine sites around the world is that there'll be 100 versions of the same file and people will take a copy and rename it, etc. This program prevents that from happening. There's one version of the truth. We're also working on short-term planning tools for short-term interval control and so forth. So, and we have a bit going on as well on the GeoTools mapping, taking tablets underground and mapping out the faces of the mine. Our software is used in underground and open pit applications, both in the metals and coal space and in other industrial minerals. I could go into a great deal of detail about mine planning software, but hopefully that answers the question.
Yes,
I'd be happy to talk to anyone in further detail following this, and for anyone who's interested, we can also arrange for live demonstrations of the software.
Okay, sounds perfect. We will note also the contact details and connect to them afterwards. Perfect. Thanks a lot. We continue with with Dr. Jan Petzold. I think you have a very fast experience in Russia and all over the world. It will be very interesting to hear how the GHH group is developing in Russia. Jan, you still have to unmute the microphone that we can hear you perfectly.
I hope you can.
Now it's unmuted again. Can you try it once again? Perfectly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, thank you very much at first for the opportunity to talk a little bit about our experiences in Russia. So good afternoon to everybody, Dobry den. I will continue in English, but as we are a company who is supplying into the mining industry, I'd like to start it here with a classical type of a safety share. We are producing dump trucks, loaders, and drill rigs, and we had decided some while ago to deliver our equipment with biodegradable fluids as well as flame retardant ones. I'm quite sure that this is for the end users of very big interest, so 98% biodegradable. Who is GHH? GHH is a company roughly 50 years old. We are privately owned, based in Germany and other parts of the world. We are containing our manufacturing subsidiaries in South Africa, Germany,
Poland, and also in Kazakhstan. We have sales areas around the world in Australia, Chile, North America, China, and we are operating through a bunch of partners. And as mentioned before, we are producing drill rigs, we are producing dump trucks, LHDs in all classes and all sizes. The picture here should give you a little bit of an overview how the equipment looks like. So from small utility vehicles, battery tramped utility vehicles, as you see it here in one of the corners, up to large dump trucks or even larger LHDs. Yeah, our history in Russia started in 2010. We have our headquarters in Moscow, as most of the people do, and we got our subsidiaries in Far East. We have our subsidiaries in the central Russian area, as well as then in the northern part, as well as in the west. The mines map here should give you a quick overview on where we are operating, and for the ones who are really in the mining industry, they know what we are talking about. So from the Far East up to the Estonian border, that's the area what we are trying to cover, as well from the north to the past. We as GHH supplying to every known mining houses, so it doesn't matter if you're talking to Norilsk, Alrosa, UMMC, Kazakh, Kazatomprom, Polymetal, only to name some of them. We are operating at the moment with 35 people, and we had started in 2018 to produce in Kazakhstan resin capsules for ground consolidation. So for everybody who's in the mining daily operations, so it's a safety related product. It is a resin to glue bolts into to keep the strata open and to consolidate the ground. Yeah, so what is the mining outlook for somebody like us who are developing products who are getting consumed in the industry? We still are of the opinion, and not only of the opinion, Russia is one, we heard it today already, one of the largest raw material producers in the world. Russia's GDP is heavily relying on the mining industry and then the output. Also, the Russian mining industry is critical for more or less each and every of the Western OEMs. So also for ourselves, we can see an annual growth of 5% in production. We had named some of the companies already, and we are facing a situation at the moment what still remains unknown concerning the COVID-19 pandemic. And there had been one question earlier, does the travel restrictions harm the operation? Yes, it does. We delivered for a field validation test products in February, brand new designed equipment. And when we tried to enter the mine site, the COVID-19 had arisen. So we have now products in operation in the Ural Mountains, what we actually had foreseen as operating in a field validation to understand how the product works and operates, and we wasn't able since that to visit the site. So that means our engineers who developed the product has not seen their own product in operation yet. Only our internal Russian team was able to do. So I hope that answers a little bit the question, does COVID-19 and the travel restrictions harm the business? Yes, it does. And if you're keeping in mind what will happen with the current further depreciation of the Russian ruble, that will be definitely one of the next points what we as an OEM, as a supplier, has to keep in mind. And the worst case, what we can foresee at the moment is when the Russian ruble will hit the 100 ruble mark to the euro. I remember some years ago in the beginning of the 2010s that we started to operate with an exchange rate of 32. The Russian market on its own, I believe it's all known to you all in terms of the size. So therefore, it's not needed to go into more details on that. I'd like to skip that part, but keeping in mind for everybody, we are talking about a country of 11 time zones. We are talking about 9,000 kilometers distance from the east to the west and 4,000 kilometers from the north to the south. Only to give you once again an idea, what does it mean, the potential of this country, but also the challenges. And it was already spoken today about it, how remote some areas can be and how complicated it is for you to actually service these areas. And that requests a lot of investments for yourself in terms of your infrastructure you have to bring up, but also to your internal logistics, what you have to do. So I promised to Christopher to talk a little bit about personal experience, and I'd like to share these in two ways, and one's from an investor's point of view. And this doesn't have changed, and I'm doing business in Russia over the last 25 years. There's a lot of bureaucracy, if you like it or not, and it doesn't have changed. We got a very complicated tax system. The system is for the Western world in some ways unknown in their complexity, and we have to deal with that. We are facing problems on unequal pay from regions to regions. Doesn't matter where you are, you're paying people differently if they're sitting in Khabarovsk to people who are working for you in Kemerovo or people who are working for you in the Petersburg Oblast. We have a very complicated import system. That means you are still depending on the custom operators, on the custom officers in terms of getting products in, and I spoke about the weaknesses of the ruble. The success factors to be able to grow in Russia is you have to be flexible. You have to offer customized solution. That means listening to what your customers are actually asking you, and don't believe that a solution you can use elsewhere in the world can be immediately adapted to operate in Russia. You need certain patience in terms of the orders you're receiving, and we heard it already that some people need time to get orders, but unfortunately it comes to a second point, you also have to wait to be paid. That is also one of the patience you have to get when you try to do business in Russia. But you also have to build, and you can do, long-lasting relationship with your customers. This is one of the things what has to be named. It is very important, and you can do this. From my personal experience is you have to be absolutely open-minded. You have to be prepared to understand the Russian culture, and the easiest and the best is if you're able to speak the language. The language knowledge will help you to drive barriers down. You have a better understanding of the other one, and that helps you to build up the necessary relationship to do business in the country. But I can only say that friendships created are made to last. And this is one of the things what I like to give everybody with. If you're doing business in Russia, try to get friendships. They will last for long, and the people will help them. One of the things of the beginning, 25 years ago, you did business with a lot of alcohol. This is luckily nowadays not any longer needed. Business is done in some regards like you see it in the Western world. Yeah, and I'd like to thank you with a quick sentence of my own. If you'd like to do business in Russia, you have two options. You have either you love it or you can hate it. But I decided for myself, I love it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jan. We have also a question. What is your take on the gold price perspectives in the long run? Well, there are three questions. How does the gold price affect the mining companies, business dynamics? And as a third question from an investor's perspective, how does the current gold price makes up for the weakness of the Russian ruble? Thank you.
Okay, let's start at first with the question related to what impact the rising gold price has. Yes, we see there is more exploration business going on, and some of the penny stocks you have seen some while ago, they have developed now further on and starting to get reopened businesses. We are still, due to the COVID-19, sitting in a situation where you see that most of the mining houses had changed their capex into opex, so from capital expenditure to operational expenditures. So the procurement cycle has not restarted yet, but exploration you can see. The gold price, the rising gold price, has definitely a positive impact to the Russian economy, no doubt about, but please keep in mind the most important part of the Russian mineral resources is oil and gas and not gold, even that they are one of the largest gold producers on earth, but the Russian economy depends more on more on oil and gas as it does on gold.
Okay, thank you very much. So we do not have any question open. Then thanks, Jan. In case there's any questions coming up during the Q&A afterwards, then we will come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're coming to the closing point for today. As a short summary, how to do business in Russia. And Jan, you made one very good point when you say bureaucracy, because this is exactly what we are good in it. We love papers. Well, we love to get rid of papers, in fact, but this is part of our usual operations. Maybe like for the beginning, we said already a lot about the Russian mining sector, about the resources, so I will not focus too much on this. We have made from our side a mining report. It shows also not only focusing on the main resources as nickel, coal, uranium, gold, and other resources, what is the perspective for the next years, but it's also giving a little bit of overview, where is what located, which mines are currently operating, and which resources are lying there. So I will not focus on this today in order to save a little bit of time, because in Australia it's quite time to go to bed, I believe, while in Canada we are waiting for the break, for the lunchtime, I believe. So maybe to the core point about market entry strategy, because I understood that some companies participating today are maybe exporting to Russia or are interested to export, but are not yet here with a local presence. So we tried to summarize what are maybe some core issues to consider. As Jan maybe also mentioned, the FX rate from 32 rising to almost 100 now, or to at least, well, not 100, but 90. So financial planning is also part of the business. What we understood from the last years, and it's a very good tendency, that companies are more focusing on first doing a market research, understanding the market, being sure to come on the market in order to avoid any sunk cost and maybe a hard exit of the market. When coming to a market, we see, or when starting with the market, there are different areas to start with. The usual and common starting point is like a typical export business, direct sales, having a supply agreement for an equipment or so, or for services to be provided to Russia, which is usually the very first step. Means in case it's only a supply agreement without installation and so on, there's usually not necessary to make any registration. In case some services are provided in Russia since these years, if these are electronic services, they may be necessary to register for VAT purposes in Russia. So in case anybody is rendering electronic services to Russia and did not yet register for this VAT registration, you maybe need to consider this. In case you export materials or equipment to Russia, you should also take care about the certification requirements. Russia here, and well, not only Russia, the whole Eurasian Economic Union, the Customs Union, needs registration for most of the products and equipment. So it is good to take care about this in advance, because we've often seen already cases when a delivery agreement is already concluded, maybe even on an ex-work basis. But in the agreement, it's written that the supplier is responsible for customs clearance, for import and certification. And this was not considered that it is maybe even not possible for the seller to do so, because the certification must be done from a Russian legal entity, and they simply did not have one. So just as a hint in case you have some deliveries, check the certification requirements in beforehand and the time perspective for this. As another step, not only have the typical export business, would be to have a local presence in Russia. There are different alternatives, but the soft one, the market entry light, is kind of outstaffing. It's a representation on the market. means that the person, maybe also with your business card, is being in Russia, running from potential business to potential business, making the introduction for you, handing over to you then the contract, and then you from the head office doing business with these clients. This is a solution in case you do not want to have any registration in Russia, means that you do not have any cost for registration or deregistration in case the strategy does not work out. So the exit is quite easily possible. Maybe a next step, or maybe this could be then a parallel step even, in fact, is to open a division of a foreign legal entity, means either a representative office or a branch in case you have some specific job here in Russia. This is then not a legal entity by themselves, but it's a division of a foreign legal entity. We often hear also the question, what is the difference between those two, the representative office and the branch? So it's, well, from the name, as it already says, the representative office is only for representative tasks, for marketing services, for market research, but not generating any sales, revenue, and not doing the main core business of the foreign company, of the mother company. The branch by itself can do this. Means that the branch is quite free to do all the activities also the head office is executing, can generate revenue, but has some restrictions for import. As I mentioned, that import can be done by a Russian legal entity, and it's an entity which is incorporated in Russia, while the branch is not. Another option, and the most common option, in fact, is also to incorporate in Russia with a legal entity like a limited liability company, the most easiest one, where the share capital is quite low with 10,000 rubles, which is 130 euros. So this is easy to be done. The registration itself is quite fast with 5 days in case all documents are prepared, but the preparation of the documents usually that was often a question that now we can have more than one general director in Russia. Before it was not possible, and now we can have, for example, 2 or more general directors focusing on different areas of the business. For example, as well, we heard maybe one for the accountancy work, for the administrating work, for all this document flow, and maybe one for the technical, the sales, or other operational tasks. So this is one good plus now also from the LLC. Maybe some final questions concerning the organizational matters everybody should take into consideration in case you work in Russia. Like each company, doesn't matter if it's a branch, an LLC or whatever, needs a business address, means that you have a registered address, need also a bank account, which takes even much longer to obtain than to register the entity in Russia, needs a general director. This must be at the beginning at least a Russian citizen, as it is not possible to employ directly from day 0 foreign general director. This foreign citizen will then also need work permits and work visa in connection to this. Import requirements are quite strict. So in case you have the LLC or any legal entity, you can import to Russia, but certainly you still have to fulfill all the certification requirements and get these nice certificates and stamps then for all these papers. What is also very common question from the past about the business partner checks and the legal compliance for the general director to do so. The director of the Russian entity is also personally liable for implementing a system to check the business partner. Well, not that he's going to prison, but he has a legal obligation to do so. And in case there are checks, he should provide information how he checked this company. Personnel, we already heard also before that it's difficult to find qualitative good personnel. In Moscow, it's maybe easier to find technical and personnel who speaks well command of English. But in the region, then in the middle of Russia or somewhere in the east, this will be almost impossible or takes quite some effort to find the right persons. Sanctions maybe as a final point, also to consider not only the Russian sanctions and your sanctions, so you have to consider the both sides. In case you're working from Australia and Russia, you have to consider the export sanctions from the Australian side, but also the Russian side from the import sanctions in Russia is here also well strict. And we hope that after the coronavirus time, this comes maybe to a hopefully better end. Tax system and transfer pricing and all of the financial details is maybe also not topic for today, but to keep in mind for the future, because when you are operating here, the accountancy and everything starts with day 0. And this is certainly very can be tricky in case it's not considered from the beginning. So basically, this is all what we wanted to discuss for today. We see that it's already getting quite late, already 1.5 hours. In case any questions will come up, you may address them to us. You can also address them directly to my email, and I will distribute it to all of the speakers what we have today. We will send also the presentations and the mining report I mentioned before. Well, we are basically finished. So Alexei, we are in 1 minute finished. Okay, so means I would like to thank everybody for joining. I hope it was also interesting for you having such a bridge over the countries from Canada to Australia via Europe, let's call it like this. And I wish everybody a good night in Australia and a good start in the working day in Canada, and maybe a good evening then in Europe. Thank you very much for joining, and have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chris. All the best. Bye.
Thank you, Stanislav. Thank you, Alexei. Thanks to Jan Calliope and all of our distinguished speakers.
Хорошо, спасибо большое.
Thank you
да.
very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Спасибо вам. До свидания.